Hello, I am Burt Green and I'm here to talk about UFC Vegas 63. Now this is a fights prediction show, not a recap such as my other shows. So I'm going to be, basically, this is just a show if you want to learn a little bit more about the fighters, about some of the fighters that are fighting this week at UFC Vegas 63, headlined by Cater and Arnold Allen. Then this is the show for you. I go through, I've been watching MMA since 2003. That's nearly 20 years. I've been watching this shit a long time. You know, that's all that qualifies me to talk about this, really. You know, but all I do, I watch things, and you do pick up on things over like nearly 20 years of watching MMA. I do make picks, but I make them based on getting the longest odds possible. That's the worst way to gamble. In reality, like, you need to bet on the most likely outcome, and I don't do that. But I at least give you the information in order to make those kind of informed decisions if you're choosing to bet on these fights at all. Or if you just want to know a bit more about some of these guys before they lock horns this Saturday at UFC Vegas 63. So, let's get started. Andrei Arlovski, I'm going to start in the heavyweight division. Andrei Arlovski versus Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Now, I'm a big fan of de Lima because he is an absolute savage. His record is a little bit patchy. He does tend to drop. He dropped a fight to Blagon Ivanov. But Ivanov's a tough nut to crack. He's really hard to knock out, and that's what de Lima primarily does. Now, Arlovski on the other side, if you don't know, he's an absolute legend of the sport, former champion, but you're talking he was a champion back in the Wild West days. He was, I forget what year it was, but it can't have been much later than 2005. But yeah, he was beating the likes of Tim Sylvia and those fellas. He was a real phenom, very young at the time as well. Now he is still going unbelievably. Still, the fact that he's still fighting is absolutely ridiculous. But he's a legend of the sport. He's Hall of Fame bound if he's not in the Hall of Fame already. Like, Andrei Arlovski is fantastic, and he went through a phase of getting knocked out all the time, but actually his fighting style recently, he's started protecting himself an awful lot better, which is actually something that I think is relevant for this fight. Because for me, de Lima, he's an absolute savage and will overwhelm you and get the knockout if you are susceptible to taking that damage. But if you look at Arlovski, he fights regularly. He fights really, really regularly. Last time he was knocked out was against a very big power puncher, kickboxer, in Jairzinho Rozenstruik in 2019. And before that, the last knockout he suffered was to Francis Ngannou in 2017. There's no shame in being knocked out by either of those guys. They're two of the most powerful strikers in the heavyweight division. Then Arlovski just puts together, he tends to win by decision most of the time. He's riding a 4-fight win streak, all decisions. Like, it seems like he's just figured out this system of being able to avoid damage and outwork his opponents, which again is an issue for me because de Lima was outworked in his last fight against Ivanov. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with his name. Ivanov. Yeah, so for me, I do think that with respect, Arlovski is probably slightly better, quicker. His footwork's better than Ivanov's, but also he might not have as good a chin. So, because Blagoy is he's very, very tough, very tough. But Lima also seems to get caught in submissions quite a lot. He's been caught in 5. He is a BJJ black belt though, but he just generally likes to strike. Arlovski is not really known as a submission guy, though. He's only got 3. And like I said, he's been fighting, like, forever. So he's only got 3 submissions. You're going to have a couple of submissions just by pure chance, but you've been fighting that long. So he's not known as a submission guy. Now, for me, like I said, the concern, Arlovski's coming in as a slight underdog here. And yeah, I'd be tempted to take him because Arlovski's got a knack of winning these decisions again, especially de Lima's slightly smaller. Like, Arlovski's going to be the bigger guy. He's going to have a very, very slight reach. But my bet is going to go on de Lima here because the thing is like, if he rushes you, and sometimes Arlovski has been susceptible to that. If de Lima rushes you, like he did to Ben Rothwell. Go back and watch the Ben Rothwell fight. Watch how De Lima overcomes that reach disadvantage and the size disadvantage. He just goes in there like a berserker, and he is so powerful. I love his fighting style. I just really enjoy it, and for that reason, I'm going to take De Lima by knockout. Now, the odds are not up yet for the knockout, so I will do like just an Instagram post on the Burt Green on Instagram. So you'll find it's got the logo for this show on there as the picture. So I'll be posting pictures of my accumulator to that closer to the time, and yeah, so I'm taking De Lima by KO in that one. Now the next fight, you've got Dustin Jacoby versus Khalil Roundtree Jr. This is a very interesting one, a light heavyweight battle. This one is going to be exclusive to my Patreon, so please head on over to the Patreon, Burt Locker on Patreon, to catch this fight pick. Then you've got the main event of the evening, really interesting fight. Calvin Kattar, 23-6 versus Arnold Allen, 18-1. So you've got a 2-inch reach advantage for Kattar and 3 inches in height. Now this is interesting because as a striker, Kattar is far busier in general. However, of the strikes that he throws, the percentage-wise, Allen throws more significant strikes out of the strikes that he throws. Allen also absorbs far less. However, I'd say that metric is skewed quite heavily by the Max Holloway fight for Kattar, because he absorbed kind of the most significant strikes in a UFC fight at the time. I think I might be wrong, but it was a lot of strikes. So he absorbs. So if you remove that Holloway fight, I don't think he absorbs as many strikes as you think. But for me, in boxing range, it's advantage Kattar all day. But Allen does use kicks a lot to control distance. He also covers distance really well. If you go and have a look at the Hooker fight, the way he covers distance in order to put on the pressure to get that knockout was really tremendous stuff. Now, the other thing that I would say is that Allen is going to be the better wrestler, or at least the more inclined to wrestle. He usually lands 1 and 2 on his takedowns. The slight issue there is that Kattar does defend takedowns 91% of the time, which is, pretty good. Because for me, this boils down to Kattar. He's becoming like a grizzled veteran in there. He's fought the likes of Max Holloway. He's been there against the best in the division. Arnold Allen, the surging Brit, has not quite gotten to that point yet. But Arnold Allen is someone, as I said, from the UK that he's just been looking better and better each time, and kind of better everywhere, honestly. So for me, I think that just the threat of the takedown is going to be enough for Allen to kind of mix up everything else. I think that as a mixed martial artist, Allen is probably better. Calvin Kattar has got excellent boxing though. Really great hands. And that's where he's going to have an advantage. Such a close fight on paper. I'm going to take Allen by decision because I think the fight goes the distance. And Allen is probably going to do a slight higher variety of things, and that's going to negate some of the boxing for Calvin Kattar. But I could easily see this going the other way as well. Really fun fight, and I'm looking forward to it. I hope that you enjoy the fight as well. So until next time, I am Burt Green, telling you to keep your odds long and your bets terrible.